I want to begin by thanking Governor Raimondo for all her work in leading us through this pandemic. She's done an exemplary job on many, many fronts, protecting all Rhode Islanders. I want to send a special thank you to Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee, who's on the call with us today, who we will hear from shortly, who has been laser focused, let me say that again, laser focused on the needs of small businesses over the last 6 years, and even more so over the last 8 months during this pandemic. He has been unrelenting in their advocacy. As we all know, I'm not going to say anything we don't already know, small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy. While many have benefited from the PPP, commonly known as the Paycheck Protection Program, or one a little less known, EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Fund, and the Restore Rhode Island Grant Program, more needs to be done now more than ever, and we need to step it up. We need to very quickly, and especially with the impending expiration of the coronavirus relief funds expiration on December 30th, act now. This press conference will address 2 key topics, and these topics came to us at the request and urgency of the Small Business Coalition led by Chris Parisi, who you will hear from later. First, support the immediate allocation of $75 million in CARES Act funds, that's coronavirus relief funds, to the Restore RI grant program, and an additional $75 million from the CARES Act funds for businesses if we go into lockdown or on pause, as has been indicated by the governor going forward. Bear with me 1 minute. All of this is currently in alignment with the Treasury's Coronavirus Relief Fund guidance, as has been the case going back as far as May of this year. The recent Q&A that came out from Treasury, what came out in the October timeframe, just a little over a month ago. As a real example of the need for this, in a recent visit to small businesses in Middletown, as a part of the Lieutenant Governor's 39 Cities and Towns tour, 75%, let me say it again, 75% of the businesses that were visited were unaware of the Restore RI program. It's critically needed now more than ever. We need to revamp the program and get the grants to small businesses post-haste. Before I turn over this to my colleague and friend, Representative Carlos Tabone, remember for the press to include any questions in the chat box, and we'll work to address those at the end of the event. Rep. Tabone, over to you.
Thank you, Senator. So after being a guest on a few occasions with Governor McKee's small business forums to address everything that Corona has created within our state, obviously in our private life, we do other things, being a part-time legislature. And I have a client who has been trying to access funds from the beginning. Now, I'm here to talk about that group. Maybe it's a limited group compared to the amount of small businesses we have in Rhode Island, but nevertheless, that group who did not make that February 15th deadline and who got involved in a transaction, a purchase, or whatever it may have been up until March 15th. This particular case, I'm suggesting one of my clients, they officially took over a restaurant on March 1st. And while they did not qualify with that arbitrary date, they did bleed like everybody else. They did invest their hard-earned money and their life savings and their dreams into something, not knowing that 2 weeks later, not their city, not their state, not their country, but the world would change. And they have been left orphans within all these programs. They did not qualify for PPP, not having a staff at the time, but they also did not qualify for EIDL. They didn't qualify for Restore. They didn't qualify for adaptation or any of the other grants outside of the small grants that were given for the Take It Outside. And even that has been somewhat challenging. So my advocacy on this occasion is the fact that it's important that we don't forget about these other businesses. A lot of our businesses in Rhode Island are hurting, and rightly so. The money that has gone out, while it has been helpful, there is absolutely no reason why, if the federal government has created a streamlined system that usually it has more red tape and it's more complicated than the state or the cities, why is it that it's harder to get the money locally that the government allocated precisely for this than it is to get it federally? And so I would like, just my point is very clear. It's the fact of this small group between the dates of February 15th and March 15th or 16th, and making sure that we simplify the process to make sure that more Rhode Island businesses have access to these funds, because we don't need them today. We needed them weeks ago. And many of these businesses that have been around for a long time or even a short amount of time, they have invested into our state in the belief that we would take care of them. And it's time that we do that. So with that said, Senator, thank you for bringing me onto this and being a partner with you on this. And I turn it back to you. You're muted.
I'd now like to turn it over to Chris Parisi, for the second time while I was on mute, who's head of the Small Business Coalition. Chris, over to you.
Thank you. And on behalf of the thousands of members in the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition, I would like to thank Senator DePalma, who has been with the small business community from day one, and all of our General Assembly members with us today are addressing our letter to them. And thank you to the media, here and getting our word out and holding our elected officials accountable. Your work during all of this pandemic has been insurmountable. And we recognize this level of difficulty is unprecedented, right? First and foremost, this is a health crisis, and combined with the economic crisis, we appreciate the situation our elected officials are in, and we thank them for all those that are doing their best to get our great state through this. But let me be clear, we're not here to debate how well the governor's administration or General Assembly has been doing. As small business owners, we only care about keeping our doors open to the community, and we're fear that time is running out. So here's what I want to talk about, again, on behalf of the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition. As of October 30th, there's $800 million remaining out of that $1.25 billion of the Corona CRF, the CARES Act Coronavirus Relief Funds. So that means we have 38 days in order to spend it, allocate it, or we have to return it back to the Fed. So our ask comes in two parts. First, an additional $75 million through the Restore RI grant. We need to get it out fast, and we need to keep it simple. Representative Tobin just mentioned this, we need to include all small businesses. Currently in the Restore RI grant program, it's limited to those that they had to be open by a certain date. While there's a lot of businesses that opened up during the pandemic that are not eligible for these funds, these small businesses matter. They need to be included too. There's certain industries that were excluded from this. We want to keep it simple. We want to keep it open to all small businesses. And we also ask to make it more sense for how we operate our business. And that's based on fixed expenses, right? So we have our overhead, our rent, our insurance, our utilities costs. We're asking for the calculation to consider the fixed expenses, not just the number of employees. That does not help us as we get through this pandemic. Because we're not asking for a bailout, we're just asking to keep our businesses alive, and we'll keep fighting as we always do. So that's point one. Point number two, we request an additional $75 million in funds allocated to businesses and their affected employees. So the businesses and their employees that are forced to shut down or be restricted due to the pause or further lockdown. It's simple. If the government is mandating a business to shut down or be restricted, they must immediately be ready to support that business financially. We understand that the administration, that the state, the federal government, no one asked for this pandemic. We also didn't ask for as small businesses, and we didn't ask to be shut down, and we understand that we have to do what we must do in order to really contain this health pandemic. But all we're asking for is, hey, if we're being forced to shut down, please come with the plan immediately to fund and financially support us and our employees. That's an important part. So with the addition of the original $50 million for the Restore RI grant, with the additional $150 that we're requesting, that would be $200 million maximum in grants for small businesses, and they're 15% of that $1.25 billion to keep our small businesses alive. So we're calling on our elected officials in the General Assembly to fight for us, to work with us as we are doing today, to ensure the governor allocates the funds needed to our small businesses and our employees. So we have 38 days to use these funds, but for some of us, we have even less before we have to shut our doors. So we thank you for all your time and for your consideration. Senator Palmer, I'll turn it back to you.
Chris, thank you very much. Let me now, as I indicated before, turn it to someone who's been laser focused on small business, Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee.
Yeah, thank you, Senator, and I want to thank Rep. Taban as well, and along with Senator Miller and Rep. Ruggiero, Senator Cano, and Rep. Amori for being on this call. I think that Chris has stated the issues as right from a small business person, and Chris and the coalition that has been put together with, I think, over 3,000 small businesses now. He's speaking on behalf of that, and our office has helped, along, but the coalition to build. But the reason the coalition is building right now is because of the need, right? We all can recognize this need, and touring the different communities, 39 cities and towns. I was with Senator Palmer last week. These businesses need help. I just came from a fitness center in Johnston through the Mayor Palacina's office and visiting there. And they are, in addition to needing the funds, they also are questioning, the pause and how long this pause is going to be and what impact that pause is going to have on their businesses and why are they being paused. There seems to be, certainly a winners and losers being picked here. So the main purpose of the work that we're doing right now and has always been is to get money into the pockets of the small businesses. We don't need to re-engineer the world, in terms of how, we need to get cash into the pockets of the small businesses. I can tell you that other states are doing it. I know we're doing better than some states, but other states are doing it. I just got a video sent to me by one of the coalition members of New Mexico. Governor just put out $100 million or more, and municipal leaders actually, they're lining up by doing the applications online very simply. And then there's the mayor of Albuquerque is sitting there with a box of $250 $10,000 checks, and the cars are lining up just like they would, for a food line in terms of a turkey dinner. And as the business comes up and says, I'm ABC, they go to the thing, yeah, you qualified, here's your check for $10,000. So what we need to do in Vermont is just put out $75 million more dollars. New Mexico alone is going to reopen their application process for their business again on December 6th. So that, our deadline right now is December 1st on the Restore Rhode Island funds. That needs to get extended. Rep. Taban's absolutely right. I'm visiting businesses that put their investments in prior to the COVID. They signed their lease, they did their build outs, and yet they're not included, and we haven't figured out a way to include those businesses in, to the grant. So the idea is to get as much cash as we can and not kind of create these programs about reinventing the businesses. They know how to reinvent themselves if they get the cash. What we're doing is trying to buy time for these businesses so that they can survive, and it's so critical to our local economies. As a former mayor, I didn't realize that. As a state officer now, I realize it's important to our state budget, local budgets, and a small business owner that I have been for many, many years. I understand the roller coaster that these businesses are on and the anxiety that these businesses are going through. The heart-wrenching anxiety, not only for the people who are the entrepreneurs, but also their staff and their families. So the idea, and this is a very reasonable ask, this is not an unreasonable ask, to put $75 million into the mix right now, get more aggressive in making it simplified strategies to get the money out, just like New Mexico has done and other states have done. And then recognize if we're going to have a pause here, this is going to cause some real challenges for the small businesses because they've already had the pause in the spring. They tried to recover, and then now they have to pause again. They know that customer base is going to be loyal to them, but they also have to work really hard to get that customer base back each time there's a shutdown. So we're heading into the holiday seasons. The staff needs to be taken care of as well. If we're going to, force closures to keep us safe, then the staff needs to be taken care of. That unemployment right now is running out for many people at the end of the month, at the end of December. We need to be very aware of that. And so I appreciate the reps and the senators, for coming on today. Our office is going to continue to work on, making it a front and center issue, but partnering in with the General Assembly members would be very, a great thing, and it would help these small businesses, a great deal. So thank you, Senator, and to all the reps and senators that are on the call.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much. Next to David Dedekian from Eat Drink, Rhode Island. David, over to you.
Thank you, Senator Palmer. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and to all the General Assembly members here on this call. As running Eat Drink Rhode Island, I advocate for the food and drink businesses in the state. And as we all know, they are one of the huge linchpins of our state economy in many ways. And I'm not just referring to restaurants. I'm talking all food and drink businesses from stores, shops, kitchen good shops, things of that nature, farms, farm stands. They're hurting. Everyone is hurting. This process has been painful and excruciating on so many levels. I have a list of over 30 high-profile closings from the last 6 months. I just got another one this morning that closed yesterday, a restaurant. These funds need to get into restaurants' hands immediately. I think that's the bottom line here. That's what we're all here. I echo everything that has been said before me. Not to be cute about it, but show me the money. This is it. We need funds directly into the hands of these businesses. There's no way around it. We need this $200 million. We need it executed in a much quicker fashion. Restaurants are struggling. They're hurting. I'm sure when Senator Miller speaks, he can talk to it in either greater detail, having two great spots of his own. There has to be a quick and easy process to get this into the hands of all small business owners. Ask for the rent bills, invoices for insurance, utilities, things of that nature. Have a quick, easy website, drop those in, tally them up, look at the total, come to some agreement on what form, maybe 3 months of that paid back, and just get the checks out to people. I can't stress enough how desperate the situation is for a lot of these businesses. I know restaurants that blow through $30,000 in losses a month since March, and that's while staying open. I'm not here to question the pauses or the closes or anything of that nature. I know we are in dire straits with this pandemic, and there needs to be safety precautions taken. But if that's the case, then there needs to be money put into the hands of these small businesses. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of closures. You're going to continue to see pain. Unfortunately, the relief package from our Congress in D.C. may or may not be coming. I was fortunate enough to ask Senator Reid that question this morning, and he felt that perhaps there'll be some sort of stimulus coming before the end of the year, but he's not certain. No one is certain. And whether that will include the Restaurants Act or things of that nature is up in the air still. So we need this money get out into restaurants, into food businesses, and into all small businesses across the state as quickly as possible. I don't want to keep seeing this list grow of restaurants closing. And if they do keep closing, then the state's going to be paying to unemployment and going to be losing sales tax income and liquor license income. There's a lot of pain to go around here, and it can be at least staunched a bit if the CARES Act money is raised to the levels that Chris mentioned that the Small Business Coalition wants, and is gotten out into people's hands as quickly as possible. So thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer questions, talk about some of these places that closed or anything like that afterwards if you have questions. Thank you.
David, thank you very much, and thank you for your leadership with Eat Drink Rhode Island. Next is Senator Joshua Miller, who is no stranger to small business. Senator Miller, over to you.
So I want to thank all the people on this call who have without an official position like David, have continued to advocate for the hospitality industry. And I know there are plenty on this call that have tried to do the same thing, and some of them more successfully than others. What I try to do when I'm on calls like this or when I'm talking to people within government is not necessarily lend my experience as a legislator, but lend an ear to what I hear in the hospitality community and what's happening to them and what's most urgent for them. And I can tell you, since first I want to say that I never question personally the decisions based on health statistics and the spread of the pandemic. I absolutely never question it. I see it too broadly based in my community, whether it's in the hospitality or just the neighborhood I live in, to question the decisions made based on that data. But what I do try to explain to people is what's happening in real time, not only to small businesses, but to staff. And I can tell you, since last week, or it's been a cumulative effect over the last few weeks, people do listen to the news, they do listen to the governor, and it does impact our business, and probably appropriately based on the spread of corona. And so since the last week or so, business has dropped off dramatically. I can tell you from the spring, I'll use myself as an example. I know many other people did this. Through our social media, we asked our customers how many were willing to come out under current conditions. And this was in the spring, and it was about half. So we're working with about half. And then over the last couple of weeks, we've lost at least another half of those. So we're working with 25% of our customers. And so I see as our priority is supporting those businesses, as Chris and others have explained, and to the largest extent possible under funds that are still available. And not only supporting businesses, but supporting staff, and to support staff economically, and also to support staff so they're not part of the spread. What I've seen in the last couple of weeks is a lot of staff are under quarantine and they're not getting the support they should get to properly survive under quarantine. People are not getting the housing stability they need, the replacement of income they need, the food stability they need. So we need a program that can support staff while they're quarantined and while their income is reduced, because I believe there's probably very few staff who in the hospitality industry who have the same hours they did before the pandemic, or the same level of income they had before the pandemic. So it's very important to not only support small businesses and to scale it and to make it needs-based. Not all businesses, because of where they're located or what their customer base was and still tries to be, whether it's people who have left because they're no longer working from their offices across the street, or going to an event if they're in an event area, that not all businesses have the same loss, and that has to be carefully looked at too, that the relief goes to not only the staff that has the most need, but the businesses that have the greatest losses.
Senator, thank you very much. Much appreciated, especially with the unique insight that you have. I'd now like to turn it over to my representative, Representative Deb Ruggiero. Deb, over to you.
Thank you, Senator. And I want to thank all of my colleagues, Representative Tabone, Amore, Senators Miller, DePalma, and Cano, and of course the Lieutenant Governor, who's been such a champion for small business. Thank you all so much for your leadership. You've heard me say over and over again over the years, small business is the lifeblood of our local and our state economy. You know, they employ our friends, our neighbors. They are the engine, and we need to run it hot. Government has such an important role to play with an infusion of capital to help businesses. As Chris mentioned earlier, the fixed monthly expenses, the rent, the insurance, the electricity bill. I speak to so many small businesses in my district. They are doing everything in their power to keep business going and to reinvent themselves. And I've worked with some on adaptation grants. But again, our small businesses are coming into probably the most difficult time right now in this pandemic. We are entering December, January, and February. Rhode Island needs to run it hot. We need more grants and financial resources to help the businesses to keep the lights on, the chefs cooking, the doors open, and the designers working. You know, when government puts money into the hands of people or into small business owners, it gets spent. No one runs to the bank to save it. It gets reinvested into our local economy, and you buy something, you keep someone else employed. So that's why I say Rhode Island needs to run it hot, because spending and economic assistance is really the only way we're going to keep jobs and create jobs in our local towns and cities. And I know it's a public health crisis, but it's also an economic crisis. So I thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. Stay positive and test negative. Stay well. Thank you.
Rep, thank you very much. I'd now like to go over to Jennifer Ortiz from Executive Cuts. Jennifer, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Senator. Thank you for the opportunity to address on behalf of small businesses today. I want to start with, I own Executive Cuts in downtown Providence. I've been a small business owner for 16 years now. The last 4 years, I have had a booth renter, which is a 72-year-old man that has not qualified for anything. So I am taking the weight of him myself also. I respect the governor and everything that she's done. I am a COVID survivor. Myself and 12 of my family members are coming out of early November. We tested positive. In the 9 weeks that I was shut down, I have an estimate loss of about $18,000 between myself and my booth renter. I received the Restore Ride grant, and it was $5,000. Just to give you a little of sliver of how much we still lost. The business adaptation grant came out a little bit too late. As much as I invested in my shop, I took out an idle loan, and I made a lot of changes to my shop to improve safety standards. Sorry, I still get a little out of breath. Which has now left me with a 30-year debt. And on top of that, our business is still 40% down from before COVID. With this 2-week pause, we didn't get shut down. I feel very fortunate that I can still work, even the limited amount of work that I can do with my health not being 100%. But being in the financial district, all the offices around me will be closed. So I will be in my business with no clients. So I'm very afraid of what's to come and how much more loss we're gonna take. And rent and everything is still there, but that doesn't get accounted for when you apply. I apply as sole owner. I don't get any employees. So that is why I qualified for such a small amount. Thank you.
Jennifer, thank you very much, and hopefully your health continues to improve that in your family as well.
Thank you.
I'd like to go over to my colleague, Senator Sandra Cano. Sandra?
Thank you, Senator, and thank you to all my colleagues that have already spoken, but most importantly, to the business owners on the call, and to the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition and the advocates that have expressed how much need is still out there. And I can attest, I do work full-time in the financial industry, and I was one of the people that was helping small businesses since the beginning get those PPP loan access, capital money, and grants. I would like to say that while the COVID-19 pandemic has affected us all, it's no secret that a community that has been affected tremendously has been the minority community. And that especially is true to the small businesses also in the minority community. I'll tell you that I couldn't agree more with Rep. Tabon and with all all other comments that have been made today about how important it is to make the process fast and simple, and to make sure that all businesses qualify for assistance. I can tell you, in my district alone, I have a cafe that opened in July. Small business owners, 2 women that were invested in this cafe for like around a year. The name of the cafe is Notes Cafe. Is amazing. So when you come to Pawtucket, make sure you support them. And she has expressed a lot of concerns because she cannot qualify to any assistance whatsoever. And we had been able to connect her with resources such as the Chamber of Commerce and Commerce Rise, and then she still doesn't get any answers. So all businesses, and I cannot specify more of these, all businesses need to be helped, and hopefully we could relieve and support with the money that we have. Again, just like many of you have said, I'm not questioning the decision of the governor, but what I am saying is that, as you all know, to help the economic recovery, we must release those CARE Acts funding immediately. I would also mention on a segment of the small businesses that haven't been taken care of at all. I've been very outspoken about these. And these are small businesses that the owners are still undocumented or in the process of get documented. They are small business owners that do pay taxes in Rhode Island, contribute to our economy, employ our residents. They weren't able to get any federal money in terms of the PPP loan. They're not able to get IDOM money. They're not able to get our state grants. They are left out. So again, it's a business like this that in Pawtucket is in dire need of support. And we really try. So my message to you is, let's work collaboratively. I know that all of the people in this call are champions, and let's just make sure that these CARE Act funds be released. After all, is there to help the people, and the people need it desperately, and the small business of our state really do need it. So hopefully we could include all, including the minority-owned business that are really hurt, and also the business owner that have an owner that is undocumented but also pay taxes and definitely is a contributor to our economy. So thank you so much for doing this. Again, I just want to say thank you, and let's do this together. Our small businesses need our support now.
Senator, thank you very much. Thank you for the excellent words. Certainly last but not least, Representative Gregory Amori. Greg, over to you.
Thank you, Senator, to all my colleagues in government, and thanks to you, especially, and Representative Tabone for organizing this event. I think it's important that the people of Rhode Island hear from business owners and the coalition, and it's important to have Chris's voice and David's voice and Jennifer's voice and Senator Miller's voice to bring us the reality on the ground. I know my family's businesses are struggling just as most businesses are. And I know as representatives, and to piggyback on Rep. Ruggiero's point, that they're in a critical juncture right now. And a critical juncture requires immediate help. And if we don't do that, then we're going to see those closings, and we're going to see these businesses that are on life support fall off life support, and all of the ancillary effects that are created by that. I give a lot of credit to the Lieutenant Governor for focusing on this issue. I think it's imperative that this stay at the forefront. We have the pandemic has presented many challenges across all sectors, and I know that personally in the education business, how it has adversely impacted us. But until Rhode Islanders hear these stories and know how much our small businesses are struggling, they're not going to understand the impact too. And that's the kind of pressure that we hope this event can place so that we can get this funding released as soon as possible. As the Lieutenant Governor said, we just need to get the money to the businesses. They have been scraping and scrapping and adjusting and adapting all along, and they'll continue to do that. but we need to do our part and help them along the way. So again, I appreciate this opportunity to advocate for this funding to get to our small businesses as soon as possible. Thank you, Senator.
Representative, thank you very much. Well done. We now like to open it up to Q&A. Greg, if the press has any questions they'd like to ask in the next 5 to 10 minutes, our goal is to finish this by 2:50 the latest. So Greg, I'll bring it over to you for any questions.
Senator, I haven't seen any yet, but members of the media, if you have questions, just let us know in the chat. And if you want to ask your question, we can call on you and unmute you, or just type it in there and I can relay it to the senator.
Maybe it was the case where that's succinct in the message that there are no questions. We'll give it a minute.
Senator?
Yes.
We're waiting for the questions. I don't know if Chris wants to speak to, this has been a great forum, and I know that it's going to get covered. And, the more partners we bring in to advocate for our small businesses, the better we're going to be. But I know the coalition is planning to, put another effort, another rally together. I don't know if it's premature, Chris, to talk about that, but I think that, it's important, the message that you're delivering through the coalition members of trying to help organize them so they do have a voice, and the different avenues that you've set up to make that happen.
Yes, if everyone can follow along with the RI Small Business Coalition, you could join the coalition by going to www.rismallbusiness.org. Click to join the coalition, and we'll send an email out once we have the final details regarding, rallying together for small businesses. Maybe as soon as this Wednesday. So please join the coalition if you haven't already, and we'll send out that information on how you can ensure your voice is heard, in rallying together for small businesses. So Chris, I believe we do have a question.
We do. So Chris and/or Lieutenant Governor McKee, I'm not saying I know the answer to this, but one of the questions here says, have there been any estimates, I added any, on how many businesses this amount of funding will aid? I'm not saying if that calculation has been done or not. You're on mute right now. Governor McKee, you're on mute.
I think that the last count that we did get from Commerce, that there was about 2,200, 2,300 businesses that had participated and received money through the Restore Rhode Island grant. But now, because the maximum has been increased from 15,000 to 30,000, the coalition and myself have been asking that be moved to 50,000 because the need is so great. But right now, of the original batch, Senator, of 1,300 businesses that did receive monies when the cap was 15,000, only 50% of those businesses have applied for another check. So there's 600 plus businesses that qualify for another check that just don't know that they qualify for another check, and it's a very short form. So I think that the numbers that I'm calculating right now, we're doing projects with the mayor-elect in Central Falls, along with Mayor Diosa. We're in Johnston with the municipal leaders right there. Middletown, the town council person that we travel with in Middletown is out there, knocking on doors as well. So I think that you're talking about, if you're able to get the other 75 million in, get a second or third check to businesses by Christmas in the amount that they could qualify for, and then extend that out to engaging General Assembly members and local leaders to be actually facilitating the information. I think that if you could get 5,000 businesses right now, always felt as though if we were really fast and quick, we could get 10,000 businesses in. But I think you get it to I think you can double that number, Senator, with an effort. And also remember, the Restore Rhode Island has a deadline right now of application of December 1st. but that should be extended because some of the other grants, for instance, the restaurants that were shut down for an hour or so, cut that hours.
Right.
They have to like December 7th or 6th or something like that to get those applications in. So we should really be working to get that deadline moved because December 1st is coming quick. And then of course, December 30th to get the monies out, as everybody's mentioned, is the deadline. So I think you could double it up if you really put a concerted effort in through the municipal leaders, the General Assembly leadership in their districts. I can tell you, as visiting these businesses, we visited over 300 businesses in the last 6 weeks in every community in the state with local leaders, with chambers, business associations. And as I think somebody mentioned, at least 50% of the businesses that we've been in were not aware that these Restore Rhode Island grants were available, and they all qualify.
Right. So from a virtual press conference perspective, it's always great because you can have a couple screens running at the same time. So Governor, thank you for your explanation. I did a quick calculation on 75 million at 30,000 a piece. That's 2,500, double that. So Savannah, potentially, if everybody got $30,000 and it was 1.5 million, that would be 5,000 businesses. So just a ballpark of an approximate number. Any other questions? We'll give 30 seconds for any other questions. If not, we will wrap this up and thank everybody for their time.
Can I just say real quick, this is Carlos Dolan. One of the other things is that because government, we work on, again, I mentioned the word arbitrary dates and minimum standards. I think it'd be interesting to see how many businesses just didn't make it because of an arbitrary number. There have been times where people don't make things by $1 or $2. And it's important that we also look at those businesses because, again, we're all bleeding equally. And if we could create, it'd be interesting also for the business to see a schedule of what they need to get them through February when the new government is in Washington, and maybe there'll be a little more predictability than what we're going through now. Because remember, the hardest months for any business are January anyway. And so we need to make sure that the money's important right now to get us through what people have been needing. It's important to get us through the holidays, so this infusion will be good. But January is it's known to be the most critical month in business, practically for every business. So I think that it'd be important that, I think Mr. Parisi and Mr. Dedikian, if you guys can help us with identifying that. So when we head back to the big house, we're actually working with concrete numbers and making sure that any additional things that we can do as a legislature to be supportive. That's it. Thank you.
Representative, thank you very much. So I think we're right out of time. I do want to thank everyone for participating in this. Thank the press for participating in this and understanding and appreciating the concern. I think everyone has an appreciation for the urgency, clearly the criticality. We need to move as quick as possible. One thing that I'll leave folks with, if you think about how the first federal stimulus checks were sent to folks, people applied for nothing. It showed up in their bank account if they filed their taxes electronically. It showed up in their mailbox if they filed their income taxes by mail. As Rep. Ruggiero indicated before, that money will get turned around and spent in the economy almost before it's in their hand. This is a good thing for Rhode Island businesses, for Rhode Island, the employees that they have, which then feeds our economy and will address the budget that we are going to be desperately addressing come next year for FY22. But with all that said, folks, I want to end on a note of thanks and a note of happy Thanksgiving to everybody this coming Thursday. Thanks again. Thank you for being here.